Charlie Munger had said one of the best tricks he found for running businesses successfully was to invert, meaning, how could I ruin this business? Today we're going to talk about if you wanted to ruin your retirement, how would you do that? Hey everyone, I am Andrew. I'm the owner of Lever Wealth Management, which is the financial advisor for people who scare financial advisors. And I've spent the last several years helping ultra high net worth and high net worth investors with their complex financial lives. And what I do is I take those learnings from those thousands of iterations and I give them to you so that you can apply them to your own situation. And so the first thing that I would do if I wanted to ruin my retirement, I would have mismatched cash flows. I would make sure that I was set up to really get hurt if sequence of returns risk was rearing its ugly head. And for those of you who don't know, sequence of returns risk is something where you can have the same average rate of return over a long period of time. So two people average 7% rate of return over 20 years or 30 years. But if your losses occur at the beginning and not the end, you actually have vastly different amounts of wealth. Okay, so the average return is the same. The average ending value is very different. And so if I wanted to ruin my retirement, I would make sure I have no assets that protect me in case of down markets. I would make sure I didn't have dividends or income streams or pensions or annuities or bond immunizations. I'd make sure I'd have none of that. Along with that, the second way I would make sure to ruin my retirement is I'd have an extremely complex portfolio so that every time I wanted to make an investment decision, I become paralyzed by the amount of analysis I have to do. I'd have hundreds or possibly even thousands of positions, and I wouldn't really know what the exact job of each position is. I would just make sure I have a lot of them, and I probably want a lot of them to also be illiquid so that when I do need them, I can't have them. The third thing that I would do is I would make sure I have no idea what my expenses are. I would plug some random number into my financial planning software, and I would use that to dictate if my plan was okay or not. I would make sure I don't keep a budget. I would make sure I don't understand my fixed versus variable expenses. I wouldn't know what my inflation rate on taxes is or my inflation rate in general. I would just make sure that I plug in some random number and use that as my cash flow projection to say whether my retirement would be a success or a failure. The fourth thing that I would do if I really wanted to ruin my retirement is I would make sure to do a lot of trading. I wouldn't really care about the rebalancing so much, but I would make sure I am trading my positions daily or weekly, and I would watch a lot of CNN and specifically Cramer. I would watch Jim Cramer and I would make sure I'm using his stock picks, and I would really tilt my portfolio either which way they say that day. And if they said to sell because the market's going to go down, I would make sure to sell. And if they said it was a really good time to buy or this is a particularly good company to buy, I would do that as well. Whatever the crowd is doing, I would make sure to do what the crowd is doing. The fifth thing I would do if I really wanted to ruin my retirement, I wouldn't even have a retirement plan. I mentioned the cash flow earlier. Technically, I wouldn't even want the retirement plan. The final one that I'll give as a bonus, I would make sure I have absolutely no social structure. I would make sure I have no goals. I would make sure I have no hobbies. I would make sure I have no plan to make sure I am mentally fit for moving on from work into retirement. I wouldn't want to do things like take trips and figure out what places I like and what I don't like, or make sure I have some type of schedule. I would just stop working one day and whatever happens, happens. Hopefully inverting is actually a little bit helpful. If I missed something, let me know. Go to leverwealthmanagement.com/ask if you want me to do a case study or if you have a question. And until next time, thanks everyone.